Hey everybody, how's it going? Pancheezey here, coming at you with another episode, recap, review, whatever you want to call it, for the newest episode of Dragon Ball Super. And let me tell you, this episode was definitely something else. A lot of really cool stuff happening, a lot of really important stuff happening, which is kind of prompting me to want to go ahead and make a This Is Important episode, maybe two. But a lot of really dope stuff happened in this episode. Let's just go ahead and get right on into it. So the episode starts off with everybody in Universe 10, and the plan is to stop Zamasu. Like, they know at this point Zamasu is out to kill Gawasu, and they're just there to prevent it. So Zamasu arrives on the scene, and immediately he's thinking like, yo, what are these guys doing here? And immediately you start seeing like the gears turning in everybody's head. They do a really wide pan shot of everyone there, like Goku, Whis, Beerus, Kaioshin, and Zamasu, and everybody, and they're really prepping that everybody is very stern and very calm and collect, but everything for the next couple of minutes is just like mind games between everybody, you know, excluding Goku and, you know, Gawasu because he obviously doesn't know anything what's going on, and Goku because, you know, he's a little absent-minded sometimes. But yeah, like I was saying, it was really cool to see this kind of smart writing. You know, obviously Dragon Ball is a very big staple in Dragon Ball is the fighting and all that stuff, but we often forget that sometimes the writing can be really good. And today's episode, with like all these mind games being played, everybody was playing chess with each other. Like, everybody there knew what was going on. Everybody in the room knew that Zamasu was going to kill Gawasu, but they were kind of playing around Gawasu, like in terms of like the little smart remarks they were saying to each other and like little snide remarks they were making to each other. It was very interesting to see this type of writing happening in Dragon Ball, where everybody is just kind of playing mind games, kind of playing chess with everybody else. It was a really cool change of pace, and you know, depending on how you look at it, it's just as exciting as seeing, you know, these characters fight and exchange blows, but more mentally with this type of thing. And I know for the general Dragon Ball audience, this isn't necessarily something really cool, but I personally found it really dope. So after Zamasu kind of sized up everybody, and, you know, Goku, Whis, and Beerus and Shin sized up Zamasu, they decide it's time to go ahead and go, because there's really nothing that they can do in that time and place at the moment, so they decide to just split. And not before Whis goes and offers Gawasu like a gift of like green tea and like some sweets from Earth, and that comes into play a little bit later in the episode as well. So they go ahead and they split, and they kind of go off to an undisclosed place in space, and they just kind of sit there and they watch. And Goku is really concerned because he's like, yo, what are we gonna do? Like, what's the deal? And at that point they disclose that Beerus and Whis were both able to smell, I'm air quoting here, smell his evil intent, or no, his killing intent, which is really interesting because Shin discloses that he wasn't able to sense it. And, you know, Goku obviously says he wasn't able to sense it as well, but it's almost implying that, you know, beings on a higher echelon such as like Beerus and Whis are capable of sensing this type of thing. They also kind of implied that Shin was able to sense it, but they also said that Gawasu couldn't sense it as well. So there's, you know, obviously with these things they're not going to go deep into what that means and everything, but it was really cool for them to acknowledge that Beerus and Whis could kind of sense this type of like emotion that Zamasu was feeling, but on the other hand Shin couldn't. So that was a really cool thing to know. So after that little exchange, they go ahead and they flash to the future to what I was calling Black and Zamasu's kind of like summer home, like Swiss home in the Alps. Like, it was such a strange thing to see in the future, just because everything we've seen in the future so far is like bleak and dark, and then you flash forward to like this really nice mountain home and like Zamasu and Black are just hanging out on the deck, just, you know, enjoying, just chilling, just maxing and relaxing, I guess. But they go ahead and they have a pretty interesting conversation. Zamasu goes ahead and he admits that it's ironic that in order for his plan, his eradicate all humans plan, or his anti-human plan, I forget what they call it, but he thought it was ironic that he needed a human to go ahead and do that. And Black is talking about how he is satisfied with the power he has right now, which I thought was very interesting, because if there's anything that Saiyans are never, it's satisfied with the amount of power they have. They're always hungry for more. It may have just been a like a translation error with the sub while I was watching, but I just thought it was interesting that he said that he was satisfied with the power he had. But he goes on to talk about how, you know, he loves the power he has right now, and he wants to kill Goku, and then Zamasu is like, yo, you shouldn't kill Goku because then you have no reason to go ahead and better yourself, which I thought was very interesting for him to say that as well. So there's obviously a lot more moving parts happening in the background, and with next week's episode saying that Black's identity is revealed, we'll hopefully get a lot of answers to all these loose threads happening right now. But it's really fun to speculate, you know, for the time being. So in the next scene, they go and they flash over to Mai and the rest of the Resistance underground, and there's a really cool part with like the kids. They found some cookies or whatever, and they offer it to Mai, and Mai's like, nah, I can't. And the kids basically just, you know, egg her on to eat the cookie, and you know, the kids are super happy, and Mai says that no matter what, even if I have to do it myself in order to protect these smiles, I'll do whatever it takes. And I think it's very interesting that they keep on building up Mai to be like this, you know, this really great character, and I really hope that pays off, because there's really a lot of character development happening with her in the future, as well as, you know, in the present time too. And I really hope that she's in it for the long run, because it would be such a waste for all that character development to, you know, potentially go nowhere. So next up, we head back to present state, and we get a really quick flash of Vegeta in the gravity chamber, and it looks like he broke something, and then another quick flash to Bulma saying that, you know, he did break something and she has to fix it. And even though it was very brief, like no pun intended, but it was super short, but I think that was just there to imply that Vegeta is, you know, hard at work. Like, obviously he was definitely handled in the future, and he, you know, based on his character and stuff like that, that obviously, you know, got to him, obviously. And, you know, he's hard at work trying to better himself, because he knows the fight's not over, obviously. You know, he's always training, but it's always implied that he's always training. But it was really cool to see that even for just a moment, like a really brief moment, like it flashed to him training, and you can really tell from that small moment that getting, you know, his ass handed to him in the future definitely got to him, because he's training so hard that he's breaking the gravity machine. And I think the last time we saw something like that happen was like in the Cell Saga, if I believe. I'm not 100% sure, but I just know it's been a long time since Vegeta has pushed the gravity chamber to its limits, to the point where it breaks down and stuff like that. So that obviously meant something. So next up, we get a little bit of a break from all the serious stuff happening. There's a lot of like peel-off stuff happening next. Like, you know, Mai sees Trunks kind of like moping in the courtyard. They mention that Trunks has kind of been feeling down since he's gotten back, and you know, they pans over to Trunks, and he talks about like how he ran away. He feels like he ran away and he left Mai there again, and it's really eating away at him, even though technically he didn't run away. He was just like beaten up super badly, and Mai kind of just threw him and everybody else in the time machine, and he honestly couldn't help it. But the type of person future Trunks is, he can't help but feel like that's his problem, and then, or that's his fault. And then we get a really funny scene with like Pilaf, Mai, and Shu. Is it Shu? I think it's Shu. Or is it Shin? No, it's Shu. God damn it, where's Megan? Anyway, but we get all that broken up with like the really funny like Pilaf stuff that happens. I really love that every once in a while Pilaf and his crew are in there to add like some classic Dragon Ball comedic humor. Like, it's just so funny. Like I said it last week, and I say it like, I think I've said it like twice at this point, but the way they're still able to fit in this classic Dragon Ball humor without it feeling, you know, forced or like, you know, out of place is just really great. Because, you know, for a long time with Dragon Ball Z, especially towards the end with like Buu Saga and like the androids and stuff, there wasn't really a lot of humor there. So all that out of the way, like Pilaf is kind of giving my advice on how to basically induce Florence Nightingale syndrome on Trunks, and Mai is just like not having it, and like she bugs out and she screams at him, and I just thought that was really funny. So the next scene is really great. This is one out of the two very important scenes in this episode, and it's present day Trunks, like Kid Trunks, going up to future Trunks, and they have this little exchange, and it's so great. It's such a smart move for this to happen. So basically, Chibi Trunks goes up and confronts future Trunks as to why he's feeling sorry for himself. He walks up very stern, very confident, and he goes, "Hey, me, what's the deal, dude? Like, why are you acting like this? He's like, I know why you're sad. It's because like you let all that stuff happen to Mai. He's like, why are you acting so cowardly? On the surface, he's acting like, you know, a dickhead, but underneath all that is something very, very smart happening. So this is probably going to have to be its own this stuff's important episode, because there's a lot to talk about here, but I'm just going to go ahead and break it down, you know, to its like lowest common denominator, or not its lowest common denominator, but I'm just going to break it down, give you the abridged version. Future Trunks, obviously, like I've said in the past before, grew up without Vegeta. Vegeta was barely around when Future Trunks was a kid, so Vegeta's influence on Future Trunks is 0 to nothing in terms of, you know, important important stuff about him. Like, you know, obviously he came back during like the Cell and Android saga and interacted with Vegeta, but by then he was already the person he was at that point. But present Trunks, like Kid Trunks, Chibi Trunks, whatever you want to call him, he has grown up with Vegeta his entire life. So Chibi Trunks and Future Trunks are essentially two completely different people, and Chibi Trunks is actually almost a spitting image of Vegeta, like tried and true half the time, and it was really, really, really present in this scene, and it's something I've wanted for such a long time, for, you know, Chibi Trunks to go ahead and show that he is a product of Vegeta raising him. And he walks up to Future Trunks and basically tells him like it is, just as the exact same way that Vegeta would. And I think that is so, like, such a great like staple in his character development. It's unbelievable. He pretty much is like, yo, you got to stop all this shit. I'm like, you need to stop. I'm going to fight you. And, you know, he powers up, he turns Super Saiyan, and he's like, if you're not gonna attack me, I'm gonna attack you. And then he does. He punches him in the face, and it's such a Vegeta move for him to do that. And I think for the first time you really saw the differences between Chibi Trunks and Future Trunks. And it's not necessarily a bad thing that Future Trunks doesn't act like Chibi Trunks, but I think that's almost another way of them saying like, or almost another way of them like kind of erasing out like a GT Trunks, because GT Trunks was basically just Future Trunks, which doesn't make sense because he was raised by Vegeta himself. So, you know, that's another tangent for a whole nother episode or a whole nother video entirely. But I thought that was such a great part in this episode, that whole little exchange between Chibi Trunks and Future Trunks. So we go ahead and we get back to Goku, Whis, Beerus, and Shin over there. They're watching the events unfold with Zamasu and Gaosu. And Zamasu basically lies to Gaosu, and he says, hey, you know, I've realized the error of my ways. I understand now that what you were saying is right, and, you know, I'm sorry and stuff like that. And, you know, you could take that how it is, like on the surface, but to me personally, like at this point, like Zawa knows that he's going to kill, you know, Gaosu, and it's almost as if he was letting him die in peace. Like, it's not that he truly hated Gaosu. It's not like Zamasu like straight up hated Gaosu. They just had different ideals. And to me, it's almost as if, you know, before he killed, you know, his mentor and stuff like that, he wanted to resolve everything and let Gaosu die under the, you know, under the perception that he was able to teach Zamasu what he wanted to teach him in the first place. And, you know, it might not be that, you know, it might just be something that he just said. He might have just been like straight up lying. But to me personally, I feel that it would be a lot better for character development if that was his true intention. If he still on some level cared about Gaosu to the point where he lied to him, saying that, you know, hey, you know what you were saying in the end was true. I was wrong. You were right. And then he died. He let him, and then he kills him and stuff like that. But he let him die knowing that the last lesson he tried to teach his pupil actually came true. You know, like I said, probably isn't the case at all, but it's really cool to go ahead and think some of that stuff. So after he lies about that, he's about to kill Gaosu, and then, you know, Gaosu like chokes, comedically chokes on the sweets that Whis gave him earlier on in the episode. But after he gets all that, you know, taken care of and squared away, Zamasu just, you know, karate chops him in the, you know, in the back of the neck, and he's dead. And then immediately after he does that, Whis reverses time, and he says, yo, let's get to work. That's all the evidence we need. And so they go in there, and then he's about to karate chop him again, And then Whis puts a mitt, like this little cat mitt, on his hand. And, Zawa is like, not Zawa. Zamasu was like, you're taken back. He's like, what is this mitt on my hand? He backs up and then he runs right into Beerus. And then he turns around and he's like, yo, what are you guys doing here? And, essentially, the jig is up. Like, he knows it. Everybody knows it. The jig is up. Gyaosu asks what everybody's doing here. Beerus and Whis and everybody basically spill the beans. They tell him everything. They tell him what Zamasu has been up to. They tell him that he's evil. He gets the Dragon Balls. He wants to kill Gyaosu to get the Dragon Balls to become the Kaioshin, use a time ring, become immortal, create black, all that stuff. And at this point, Gyaosu is like, you look at his face and he's clearly hurt. Like, he looks truly disappointed that this is what's happening. Zamasu pretty much knows the jig is up, and he attacks Goku. And the next thing that happens is the dopest thing I have seen. Like, it is so cool what happens next. He's about to attack Goku with like his little Kai blade, and then Beerus intercepts it, looks at him, and just puts his hand in front of his face and just simply destroys him. Like, there's no fight, there's no big energy attack, there's no bombastic type of like crazy thing that happens. He just simply looks at him, says destroy, and then Zamasu is just reduced to nothing. And while some people might think that's kind of a cop-out, there was no fight or anything, but I think that was way more important than making some long drawn-out fight. Like, for the longest time, like, ever since Battle of Gods, Beerus really hasn't, gotten in the mix too much. He's just kind of been like a side character, almost in the background, just enjoying snacks, napping, and just like, shooting shit with everybody. But this scene right here really implemented that he is somebody to, pardon my French, not to be fucked with. Like, seriously, this scene right here, like, solidified the fact that he is by definition unfuckwithable. Like, he is a god. Not only is he a god, but he is the god of destruction. You don't even have to, like, he doesn't have to fight you. Like, I feel like at this point they're saying that, Beerus doesn't have to fight you. The whole, like, it's almost like the entirety of Battle of Gods was like just child's play to him. Like, he didn't have to fight. Like, he doesn't have to fight people. He doesn't have to, go through the like theatrics of like confronting people and like having this huge fight and do the whole like super long out Dragon Ball Z trope of like 30 episodes. If he wants you dead, you are dead. So after that, they cut back to the Trunks, and Trunks kind of still going at it, and then future Trunks finally gets what's going on. He goes, hey, thank you, I understand what you're trying to do, and I get it. And they kind of have this really cool moment where they both acknowledge each other, and it's really nice. And then Whis, Goku, and Beerus kind of like just jettison back to Earth. They go and they share the great news. Everybody is super excited. They go and they say, hey, Zamasu is dead, Beerus destroyed him, there's going to be no black in this timeline, and the future timeline should be straight. Everybody is like super happy, except future Trunks. He looks a little bit distraught, and for good reason, because he straight up says, hey, you know what, I don't think my future is saved, honestly, because the last time I came here and I killed the androids, my future wasn't safe in the slightest at all. I came back and it was still messed up. Beerus then discusses something very interesting. He says that that's just stuff based around human. That stuff doesn't really matter. In the grand scheme of things, when two gods confront each other like this, and something happens on a god scale and a god level, that is going to affect every single timeline, no matter what. Clearly, that's not true. We'll see what he really meant by that. Maybe, hopefully, a little bit later. But that's not true in the slightest, because in the preview, the next episode, they go back to the future, and Zamasu and Black are still there. But that does kind of hark back to something interesting that I've always thought about the way time travel works and the way timelines work in the Dragon Ball universe. Again, this is a super long topic that probably deserves its own episode, but I'll give you the abridged version as well on this too. So through a couple of different sources in like the Dragon Ball mythos, you learn that by using primitive like time machines, it splits the timeline. So when Trunks came back with like Bulma's machine, that split the timeline in two halves. So obviously what he does in the present timeline that we're in right now doesn't affect his timeline the same way we saw with the androids. But on the other hand, when a god does time travel, or like more advanced versions of time travel like Whis does, it affects the timeline. It affects everything. There's no like split or anything like that. Everything is contained within what happens, which we've seen on a couple of different, examples. Today being one where he went back in time 3 minutes. Like every time he does that, it doesn't make a split timeline as if that thing happens. So there's not a split timeline if Earth was destroyed or whatever. But if Trunks were to do something like that, it would create a split timeline. So I think it only does it once because, if they didn't have that rule, there would be like 4 or 5 different future Trunks timelines, which that's way too convoluted. But according to Beerus, this should affect all timelines, but it doesn't. And I think what Beerus doesn't know, or maybe he doesn't know, that Trunks' future timeline is a split version of our timeline. So maybe that's the case. I don't know. There's a lot of really loose ends right now, so it's not really enough. There's not really enough information out there to go ahead and make some concrete, some theories out of this. But, it's fun to speculate at the moment. So, like I said, everybody is like super stoked that Zamasu is eliminated from this timeline, but Trunks is not. And the episode kind of ends out with, "Hey, are you sure?" Trunks is like, "Yo, are you sure?" And Beerus was like, "Yeah, man, we're good, dude. We are good. Like, you don't gotta worry." And Trunks is like, "Man, I hope so." And then the episode cuts off, and then we see in the preview of the next episode, we are definitely not good. Because we see Zamasu and Black in the future in the next episode. The next episode is gonna be pretty dope too, because apparently you find out that Black is not Goku's fake or his double. So maybe that implies that he is his own person. So, as crazy and as kooky as it may be, we finally might be getting into territory where it's been speculated for years, like the classic, "What if Goku came to Earth but did not hit his head?" I think we might be getting into that territory. I think we're finally at a place where that kind of weird fan fiction type of stuff is actually coming to fruition, because if he's not a body double, if he's not a double or a fake or some sort of doppelganger of Goku created out of thin air by the Super Dragon Balls, we're getting into some pretty wild stuff. And that, that the whole Goku not hitting his head thing, there's enough stuff to go ahead, and that could be a possibility, especially with Beerus bringing back Earth in Universe 6. Like, that is something they made it very apparent that he brought back Earth in Universe 6, and they never touched it ever again, and that might actually have a hand in it. And that's why the theory of what if Goku didn't hit his head might hold some weight. But then again, it might be going against their own rules, because Universe 6 shouldn't have a Goku, because in Universe 6 they don't have straight up doubles of everybody. So, then you never know, man. You never know. Who knows? We won't know until next week. But anyway, if you guys have some other interesting theories of your own, go and let me know. Really interested to hear what you guys think about the Trunks thing, like Trunks, the differences between their personalities of Chibi Trunks and Future Trunks, and just the display of power that Beerus showed off in this episode. If you want to go and start a discussion in the comment section below, I encourage that. As always, any questions, comments, or concerns, slap in the comment section below, and I'll catch you guys next week for what is hopefully going to be an incredibly great episode. So, I'll catch you guys next time. Peace!